This week it was revealed that Exxon was going to be applying for an exemption to the US sanctions currently in place against Russia that would allow them to resume an oil deal, a set of deals actually, with a Russian oil company that could be worth literally trillions of dollars. And that, from a number of points of view, and especially here from TYT's point of view, was one of our big fears. I mean, that's a huge amount of money theoretically being handed over to people who are already, corporations who are well represented in the Trump administration because of Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. However, at least at present, it looks like they're not going to get what they want. This statement was put out by the Treasury Secretary saying, in consultation with President Donald J. Trump, the Treasury Department will not be issuing waivers to US companies, including Exxon, authorizing drilling prohibited by current Russian sanctions.
So two things here. One, I am legitimately shocked. And two, it appears I am massively wrong. So doesn't happen often. But this is almost as wrong as I was about Anthony Weiner.
You may want to screen grab that, by the way. I didn't mean just, not the Anthony Weiner part, we know that.
There's been enough screen grabbing of that.
Exactly, thank you.
So my thesis was that, hey, you don't put Rex Tillerson as your Secretary of State unless the whole point was to make sure that, and you have all this Russia helping you in the elections. The deal seems obvious here. What do they care most about? Sanctions, the oil deal. This particular deal with Exxon is $500 billion investment and potentially trillions in revenue. So I concluded that it was that if he had any deal with the Russians, and I thought he probably did, it was about this. Now Treasury saying that they are not lifting the sanctions. Well, then it is entirely possible that I am wrong. It's not over, and this might be, hey, let's let it cool down and we'll let him do it later. But Exxon does have a contract that runs out at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So if they're gonna do it, they have to do it by the end of the year. So until this gets reversed, for the moment being, I appear to have been totally wrong about that deal.
I largely agree with that final point, but earlier on you said Treasury announced they're not lifting the sanctions, but that's not what this is actually. It's that they're not gonna grant a waiver right now to any US companies, and that's why, look, it's great. They could have just let Exxon do it, and that'd be worth trillions for them, as we've been saying. That would be horrible, obviously, and it seemed like one of the big goals of the administration. But what Russia truly wants is not a waiver for Exxon. What they want is to get rid of the sanctions, all the sanctions. And simply giving a waiver to Exxon, they could have tried to do it, they could have done it, but that would be perhaps draw a little bit too much attention. If instead you simply get to a point where, as part of some larger deal with Russia, perhaps having to do with Syria, you get rid of all of the sanctions, well then Exxon wasn't given any special treatment in that. They just were, there was a consequence of getting rid of the sanctions. That is the huge payday. They could have taken the easy route, but this might be just them playing the long game.
And a lot of people, another reason why I think, with that stuff that John just said is really important, but one of the reasons that I was wrong too is that I thought that by deferring to Treasury, because any department could issue the waiver, they deferred to Treasury because Rex Tillerson said, hey, for 2 years, I'm not gonna get involved with any of these things once I take this job. Right, so we all believe that. But then when Treasury, he gave it to Mnuchin and the Treasury Department was like, oh, that's his out, that's the loophole. I'm not gonna do it, they're gonna do it, and then they didn't do it. But I know it must be because of what you said, John, because it's not just this black and white.
Well, but to their credit too, I mean, we're playing this out, how this might have unfolded. This is a plan that Tillerson drafted when he was at Exxon, right? Yeah. It would have gone against the existing sanctions. The tangled web of players involved in this, the outrage would have been enormous. No one in their right mind would have tried to push this through right now. Whether we can speculate about long game or not, I think they finally sat back and said, "There's no way we should do this right now."
If we assume outrage matters anymore, but are they affected by? Oh, people are going to be outraged. I'm not going to do it. I don't see that anymore.
Well, so just 2 points of context there. The people who would have been outraged would have been Republicans and not just Democrats. Of course, they don't care about Democrats or liberals. But John McCain tweeted on whether they should get this waiver, quote, "Are you crazy?" So
of course he also voted for Rex Tillerson.
Right, and he voted, and Rubio was against it, and other leading Republicans were against it.
And Rubio voted for him too.
Yeah, they all voted for Tillerson, but now saying, hey, don't give Exxon the waiver. And it's not that we care that Exxon makes the trillions of dollars. The whole point is Rosneft and the Russian oligarchs and Putin were gonna make trillions of dollars off of it. That's why they would have been incentivized to help Trump win, and that's where it's relevant to all of us as a country.
Well, can I go on the record as saying I don't want that oil taken out of the ground at all? by any corporation.
That's also,
because that's a ridiculous amount of oil that doesn't need to be burned.
Yeah, and then finally, do I really believe I'm wrong? Of course not.
Really?
He almost had me.
Yeah, so
Man.
I do believe they will lift the sanctions at some point in the nick of time for ExxonMobil and Rosneft to make that deal. But for the moment being, I'm telling you that right now they didn't lift it, and the facts in front of us is that that right now they didn't give that Exxon that waiver. So if it continues and they never lift the sanctions, then I will come out and say, yeah, definitively that was not the deal.
I also want to go on the record. I was wrong. This is just in case Editor Mary is watching. It's Rosneft, I believe.
I was just going to say how good the first Rosneft that you said was great. I was impressed by you. Yeah, that was good.
I got a lot of criticism after the last story.
You think Trump's the only one with Russian deals?
Corporate media is awesome.
Wrong.
Independent media is the way to go.
Believe me, believe me.
Support independent media right now. Become a Young Turks member. TYTnetwork.com/join.